Hello, we are interns for the Go Green Initiative, a nonprofit environmental education organization founded in 2002 by Joe Buck. This year, we are focusing on energy conservation and benchmarking for our school district and city, as well as researching local environmental topics, including the climate action plans of the Tri-Valley area. The Tri-Valley area is comprised of three main cities, Pleasanton, Dublin, and Livermore in the East Bay of California, around 40 minutes away from San Francisco. Each of these three cities are developing their own ways of being environmentally conscious while also serving the residents. They have developed climate action plans to detail their processes and expectations to pursue a more sustainable and conservation-focused future. Pleasanton, as a city, is mostly already developed, and most residents live in single-family homes with 2 vehicles. Thus, land use would be different from the other cities, as there won't be as much room for new development. In Dublin, we need to keep in mind that the current information we have is from their 2010 Climate Action Plan, and they are currently in the process of updating it. For Livermore, they are currently trying to find a feasible way to reduce the community-generated greenhouse gas emissions, as well as finding ways to be consistent with the statewide greenhouse gas reductions.
Our first topic is land use, specifically transportation-related developments. In Pleasanton, ideally we insert dense, mixed-use development near proximity to transit stops, such as BART or Wheels bus stations. But this may not be possible. Historically, Pleasanton has favored reserving land for businesses in the commercial sector rather than for residential areas. As a result, the remaining land is a collection of small plots of land scattered around the city. In other words, any new development, such as Pleasanton's goal of 2,000 additional housing units, would be interstitial. Consequently, it is unlikely that these residences would be conveniently situated near BART, causing many people to rely on driving. In Dublin, for transportation-related developments, the City of Dublin added a mixture of low-rise and mixed-use buildings next to the West Dublin BART area. The City of Dublin also identified a reduction in vehicle trips of around 25% for the multi-family residential developments, located within a half-a-mile walk of a BART station. The primary goal for Dublin is to reduce the need to travel long distances, facilitate transit, increase the availability of affordable housing, employ existing infrastructure capacity, and more. And then for Livermore, the estimate is that the transit-oriented development and transit enhancements will together reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 1,461 metric tons of carbon dioxide. The City of Livermore is also focusing on encouraging transit-oriented development to maximize access to public transportation at the Vasco and downtown ACE stations. The goal for transit enhancements is to restore the bus systems to its former state in 2009, reducing the total amount of daily vehicular miles traveled by around 4,000 miles.
Pleasanton, Livermore, and Dublin have all put forth housing development plans to reduce carbon emissions by changing where new residences are built. If successfully added, high-density development in Pleasanton would create a projected reduction of 6,898 metric tons of carbon dioxide emissions per year. Combining this with new housing developments near commercial centers would result in another reduction of 5,845 metric tons of carbon dioxide emissions per year. Dublin's plans for high-density development, which included 25.1 plus dwelling units per acre and mixed-use development, are estimated to result in a reduction of 4,357 metric tons of carbon dioxide emissions per year, or 0.93% reduction by 2020. Livermore's plan for overall land use and development estimate building 510 new housing units and 16 acres of open space near the newly planned ACE station. Near the Livermore downtown area, or ACE station, there will be an increase in commercial, office, entertainment, lodging, and residential areas developed. This is expected to result in a net decrease in daily VMT of approximately 18,322 miles.
In Pleasanton, the city is focusing on promoting emissions-free and lower emissions modes of transportation such as walking, biking, and public transportation. To do this, we can modify streets directly with wider sidewalks, shared or dedicated bicycle lanes, and more bus pullouts. This is estimated to reduce the total metric tons of carbon dioxide by 2,202 per year. In Dublin, they are already improving streets on existing streets and creating new bicycle and pedestrian lanes and routes on many key city corridors and freeway crossing aims to promote clean forms of transportation. Parking lots with 20 or more spaces in non-residential zoning districts are required to provide one bicycle parking space and a bicycle rack for each 40 vehicular parking spaces. Additionally, Dublin is trying to incorporate a streetscape master plan to add trees within the community to create an environment for walking, bicycling, and transit use. These street modifications are estimated to reduce 3,506 metric tons of carbon dioxide per year. Lastly, land use choices should take into consideration climate risks proposed by California's fourth climate change assessment assessment. Packing many people into higher density developments can create urban heat islands and change runoff amounts and routes after a rainstorm. The disparity of affordable housing offered in Bay Area may force households south, north, and inland.
According to California's fourth climate assessment, 21 million trips were taken on an average weekday in 2008. Transportation accounts for the majority of greenhouse gas emissions for all 3 cities in the Tri-Valley. In 2005, the percent of metric tons of CO2 emission due to traffic were 52% for Pleasanton, 65% for Dublin, and only 36% for Livermore. The chart on the right shows the total CO2 emissions from transportation in the Tri-Valley. We can see that in 2005, Pleasanton accounted for just over half of the transportation emissions. All cities are trying to decrease emissions, and the next few slides compare and contrast the mandates in the individual cities have made to meet their transportation goals. One of the best ways to decrease emissions from transportation is to get cars off the road by making it easier to use alternate modes of transportation. Dublin stated in their Climate Action Plan that they had plans to work with the Livermore-Amador Valley Transit, or LAVTA, to increase transit opportunities in the community, develop further bus stop locations, and extend current service routes. Pleasanton went a step further with their plans to work with LAVTA and plans to increase bus routes to access BART and other popular commute centers within the city, including the Hacienda Business Park. Pleasanton has more detailed strategies for making public transport a viable option for their residents. The city has been working on plans that will approve extensions of BART to downtown Livermore and potentially downtown San Jose. Pleasanton also wants to increase ridership on public transit around the city by creating subsidies that offer discount transit passes, benefits to Pleasanton residents that opt for alternative community options, and potentially requiring new non-residential developments to offer employees discounted transit passes in lieu of parking spaces. Livermore is also planning to work with car-sharing companies to help people who do not use their cars very often. This can save money for residents that drive less than 60,000 miles a year, all while decreasing emissions. Lastly, they wish to work with local companies that allow employees to work from home 1 day a week to decrease traffic demand on the roads.
All 3 cities have encouraged the use of hybrid and electric cars to decrease the emissions from the cars that are on the road. Dublin implemented charging station parking spots at the Dublin Library and Shannon Community Center and increased the number of low-emission parking spots to promote the use of such vehicles. They also have 5 hybrid vehicles that can be used for city employees to lower emissions. Both Livermore and Pleasanton are trying to replace their city fleets with hybrid and eventually all-electric cars. As of 2010, Livermore was planning to implement an idle time law that restricts heavy-duty idle time to 3 minutes. If the law goes over well, they hope to add municipal trucks to the 3-minute restriction. In an effort to decrease traffic congestion, both Livermore and Pleasanton are trying to better synchronize their traffic lights to prevent unnecessary gridlock and reduce time cars are sitting in traffic. Regarding traffic, Dublin restated that they had plans to decrease traffic by making alternative transportation options easier and more accessible. After comparing the Tri-Valley plans regarding transportation, it is pretty clear Pleasanton and Livermore have far more detailed plans and strategies listed in their climate action plans than Dublin. Because so much transportation takes place between all 3 cities, it would be really great to see more collaboration within the Tri-Valley in future updated climate action plans so they can work together to accomplish their greenhouse gas emission goals.
Throughout the Tri-Valley, Pleasanton, Dublin, and Livermore have developed plans to increase their renewable energy sources, a critical aspect of combating climate change. Pleasanton's third goal in their Climate Action Plan is to increase their renewable energy sources, with an emphasis on solar hot water heating, rooftop photovoltaic systems, and wind energy. An example of this is their General Siting Ordinance, which permits renewable energy facilities in specific areas of the city. This ordinance is part of Pleasanton's first strategy to implement local measures and permitting processes to support renewable energy. Pleasanton's 2 other strategies in terms of renewable energy promote the use of on-site renewable energy throughout the community, as well as to promote renewable energy use in municipal buildings. In addition to Pleasanton, Dublin has also worked to increase their renewable energy sources. Dublin has a focus on solar, wind, biomass, and geothermal energy. They have partnered with SunShares Renewable Energy to increase their solar energy use, which makes it easier and more affordable for residents to go solar or purchase an electric vehicle. Dublin has also become a member of the California First program, which is another financial assistance program that helps homeowners who wish to install photovoltaic systems. As for Livermore's renewable energy plans, they have an emphasis on solar energy. Measures Energy 5 and Energy 6 work on increasing solar panels in buildings and parking lots. Livermore has also created many measures to support their future renewable energy projects. Examples of this are Measures Energy 13, 14, and 15, which establish protocols for reviewing proposed alternative energy projects, providing standards for alternative energy storage, and providing financial assistance for alternative energy projects. Pleasanton, Dublin, and Livermore also work together to increase their renewable energy use through through Solar Cities, a joint project to educate consumers about residential solar energy.
An important part of energy usage is the maintenance of green and energy-efficient buildings, which make up a large part of energy use in the Tri-Valley. In order to adapt to energy demands and the changing energy grid, the City of Pleasanton is working to ensure all city facilities fit the Green Building Ordinance, which places limitations on how buildings over 20,000 square feet can be remodeled and constructed. It includes aspects of LEED, Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, and their certification system for green buildings. It's useful for not only lowering emissions and operation costs, but also promoting employment and attracting tenants. In Dublin, they're choosing to follow a similar path to Pleasanton by conforming to their own green building ordinance. Residential projects over 20 units must have at least 50 points on the Green Point rating scale, an independent green home certification program in California. In addition, projects that cost more than $3 million to build are required to be LEED Silver certified. This can be done through the inclusion of proximity to public transport, efforts to create cleaner air, and access to daylight, among other steps to build greener buildings. Meanwhile, in Livermore, several pieces of legislation have been put in place in order to promote energy efficiency. For example, Energy One is a measure to increase energy efficiency in residential buildings, and other energy measures have been put into effect as well. CYES, California Youth Energy Services, has been very effective in Livermore when it comes to actually reducing residential emissions and making the community greener. Overall, when comparing the climate action plans of all three cities, Dublin has shown the most initiative with its LEED Silver certification standard, and Livermore the most success with the effects of CYES.
Pleasanton has also adopted a city resolution to achieve zero waste, and the goal is to have, by 2020, 90% of the waste go to either compost or recycling. To help with this goal, the city plans to install compost and recycling sites at Operations Service Center, City Hall, and the Senior Center. Dublin plans to divert 75% of its waste from the landfill and to have a tiered rate for garbage, organics, and recyclable items in recycling. By composting, we reduce the amount of methane in landfills, as well as the amount of energy needed for pesticides. As Dublin has a population of nearly 60,000, it plans to promote its plans of diversion or the recycling and composting of items at both the family and the commercial levels.
Livermore's waste management system depends almost entirely on recycling. They recycle everything from water to cell phones. Livermore City Hall, which was renovated in 2002, was redone with salvaged and recycled materials, leading it to be called a green City Hall. The City Hall isn't green only in the way it was renovated, though. Residents can drop off their electronic waste to be recycled at the City Hall. Also, Livermore is using rubberized asphalt concrete, which reduces the stockpile of waste tires. They are also recycling their asphalt itself.
Pleasanton plans to switch waste transportation to natural gas, fuel, and increase not only recycling, but also organics diversion, which is basically composting, and waste reduction in the city. Pleasanton also plans to create new infrastructure and adapt existing ones to use less water. In Dublin, we reduce the amount of energy we use to transport products and packaging by recycling and producing less waste.
In Livermore, recycled water is used for things like irrigation and fire protection. Livermore also has a recycled water system, which includes a pump station, a 1.9 million gallon reservoir, and 14 miles of pipeline. Recycling water is an extremely important thing to do, especially with all the seasonal fluctuation in wetness in the Bay Area, as demonstrated by this graphic. This shows the change in the wettest day of the year throughout time. Water storage in snowpacks like the Sierra Nevada snowpack alleviates this seasonal fluctuation by acting as a natural reservoir. The Sierra Nevada snowpack was at a 1 in 500 year low, and it is projected to decrease as per California's fourth climate change assessment. The Bay Area gets 60% of its water from this snowpack. So, Livermore's initiative to focus on recycling water is incredibly important.
Community outreach is extremely important to compare between the three different cities. Some ideas have been implemented into multiple cities, while other ideas can be added or expanded. Pleasanton has outreach programs that reach businesses in the local community. The city partners with schools to promote sustainability implementations of local programs and providing resources and information to the community. To help reduce emissions, there's a Spare the Air Week, which also includes walking and biking to and from school. Parents and students in the Pleasanton district are encouraged to find alternative methods to go to and from school to reduce greenhouse emissions. To help with this effort, crossing guards are paid to maintain the safety for students crossing busy streets. Businesses are even encouraged to persuade their employees to walk or bike to work. Employees also can get refreshments, t-shirts, and other items if they participate. There were also bike tune-ups available. In addition, the City of Pleasanton during the drought implemented a program that used sewage water to water lawns. This allows residents to prevent their lawns from completely dying. However, the program has been discontinued due to Pleasanton no longer being in a drought. In order to help businesses, irrigation rebates were available for sprinklers, rain sensors, and irrigation controllers. These encourage businesses to help conserve water. Last but not least, the City of Pleasanton helps expedite green energy permits for solar, wind power for buildings and residents. This encourages residents and businesses to use more green energy.
Moving on to Dublin, here we can see that there are several community outreach programs. The first we are starting with is the Great Race for Clean Air. This is a 2-month competition between the Tri-Valley employers in a way to encourage their employees to find an alternate way to commute, such as carpooling, biking, walking, or taking public transport. Next, we have the Rock and Roll to School. This was designed to help educate not only Tri-Valley students but parents as well about finding green ways to get to and from school. This campaign is to reduce commute traffic, which in turn reduces greenhouse gas emissions, as well as increases safety around the school while providing another way to exercise for the kids. Dublin has also been working with the school on the Go Green recycling and composting programs. This is an educational program that schools use to increase the recycling and composting efforts. It was designed to create a culture of environmental responsibility. They also have an AVI or Amador Valley Industries educational programs. AVI is Dublin's waste hauling system. They are required to present information on recycling and composting programs that the city has to offer to various businesses and organizations. AVI provides a minimum of 12 presentations per year. And finally, Dublin partners with Pleasanton to promote Bike to Work Day. Looking at Livermore, we have 3 programs. First, they have the business and organizations, where the city works with organizations and existing buildings in an attempt to help reduce energy, waste, and go green gas emissions. Now, for the school area, we can see we have 2 programs. The first one we see is the Walk to School Day, and the second one is what we call the Walking School Bus. This is where one parent walks a group of kids to school instead of car. As you can see, between these 3 cities, they all have their own strengths and weaknesses, and can learn and take away many things from each other.